NBA 2K14 is considered to be one of the greatest NBA 2K games ever made. It was the first 2K to make the jump to the PS4 and Xbox One, with many calling it the greatest looking 2K ever. And even today, some would argue that it still has the best lighting and graphics of any 2K since. This was the first 2K to introduce the Park, which has become a huge game mode in recent years. EuroLeague teams were fully licensed in this game, and my career was incredibly in-depth for its time. This game made NBA Live 14, a game EA took years off to create, look like complete trash in comparison. A few years ago, we had the majority of 2K players actually preferring to play the PS4 version of 2K over the newer PS5 version. When NBA 2K14 dropped, that wasn't the case at all. You only played the PS3 version if you didn't have the next-gen consoles. Even today, some claim that 2K14 was smoother, more fluid, and a better basketball simulation than 2K24. But was NBA 2K14 really that good? And does it truly hold up today? Or is it just nostalgia? Are we being overly critical of modern 2K because of the sour taste the VC and microtransactions leave? Is the community biased? Do we miss the era surrounding the game or the gameplay and the visuals themselves? In this video, I'm going to take a deeper look at 2K14 and directly compare it to 2K24 in key areas to really get to the bottom of this. Should you be playing NBA 2K14 in 2023? Or are you better off just playing a more recent title? Let's find out. The first thing I noticed when I started playing 2K14 was how fast and fluid everything felt within gameplay. Players moved quickly, and you'd even see their jersey move with them. We don't see jersey physics like this in modern 2K because the NBA has shifted towards using slimmer fitting uniforms, but this does feel representative of the era this game released in. Compared to 2K24, shots have a more random chance of falling. In newer 2Ks, you have to greenlight your shot to make it online or at higher difficulties, while in these older titles, sometimes bad shots would magically fall in. This is more realistic and something that's annoyed me with future titles. If you go outside and start shooting at your local park, you might hit a few dumb shots that you shouldn't have made. A green light should always result in a make, but sometimes it's nice to be surprised. I get why newer 2Ks are different. These games are more focused on being a competitive online game, rather than a sim-focused offline game, so there needs to be a skill gap. You don't want to play someone who gets lucky and hits a few bad shots with a poor release. I just wish it was a little less predictable. You can tell if a shot is going in before it comes close to the rim in newer games, which takes away some of the fun in my opinion. The issue with modern sports games teeing the line between being a competitive online game versus being a more sim-focused offline game is something I might make an entire video about. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. But love it or hate it, this is one example of the direction 2K has taken in recent years, along with most other sports video games, because that's where the money is. NBA 2K14 has some very solid gameplay for its time, but I can't say it's better than newer 2Ks overall. There are a lot less dribble moves and animations for ball handling, there's a lot less player-specific jump shots, and it's simply less complex. What makes it fun today is simply how different it feels and how fluid it is. It must be running on a completely different engine. If you're bored of the similar gameplay from the last few 2Ks, this is definitely a breath of fresh air. And for its time, this game blew away both NBA 2K13 and NBA Live 14. It was a masterpiece on the court back in its day. When it comes to game modes and overall depth, despite the nostalgia surrounding 2K14, NBA 2K24 does have more to it. My career, however, did have a few things going for it in 2K14 that modern 2Ks don't have. For example, if you became an NBA superstar, your team's GM will actually sit you down and ask you which players your team should target to sign and help you out. That was pretty cool. This was also the last 2K to have individual attribute upgrades, rather than categoric upgrades for your My Player. And the stories in these older 2Ks had less filler and felt less corporate, at least in my opinion. You're here to be an NBA legend, not talk to Jake from State Farm. I had previously claimed that 2K16 had a fantastic My Career story, but I now find that to be more of my nostalgia talking. These older stories were always cheesy and sometimes cringe, but they had charm. They may not hold up as well today, but I always had a blast playing them, and for an NBA game from the early 2010s, my career was pretty cutting edge for its time. When it comes to other game modes, however, 2K24 takes the cake. The My Eras feature in 2K24's Dynasty mode is incredible, and something 2K14 can't even compare to. 2K14 did have My GM, where you had to balance managing the finances and roster construction of a team, while also managing the personal relationships with players and coaches. It was pretty deep for 2013, but almost everything from it is still included in My NBA in 2K24. While today Park is one of the most played and most hated game modes, it was introduced for the first time ever back in 2K14. Look at how humble this gameplay is. These are people just shooting hoops online, simpler times. Today, the Park has become an excuse for 2K to feature excessive microtransactions in a fully priced game, as you start out as a 60 overall, but nearly everyone online pays to be a 99, and if you don't pay yourself, it'll take a really long time to become competitive. It has also become incredibly cheesy, with players spamming left-right dribble moves, then running to the rim to trigger a dunk animation so extreme, I don't even think Giannis could do it. 2K14's more simple OG Park was a lot more chill, for better or for worse, although I'm sure if it was around today, there would definitely be a way to cheese it online. In its original 2K14 form, 100 players could join a server and play half-court 2s, 3s, or full-court 5s, with your custom My Player. There was no weekly spin, or even affiliations or crews or leagues. It was basic and bare bones, but for its time it was a huge hit. It was Blacktop now online with user-created players. It was awesome. Something 2K14 had that 2K24 doesn't is the inclusion of Euro teams, each fully licensed with real players and uniforms. It was a pleasant surprise to see, as Euro teams haven't been in 2K in a very long time, but overall when it comes to game modes and depth, 2K24 does have more going for it. Let's compare the graphics of 2K24 and 2K14. I'll be alternating similar footage between the games. Clearly there is more detail in the player faces and bodies on newer games, which makes sense considering 2K14 is 10 years old. But there's just something about the lighting and overall vibe of 2K14's graphics that just look more authentic. During development, 2K sent employees to visit every arena and capture the specific lighting of each arena, so then in-game the same lighting sources were used, resulting in an authentic looking experience on the court visually. What do you guys think? Comparing graphics like this can be a pretty subjective experience, so our opinions might differ. I do think 2K14 looks better than the next few 2Ks that followed it, but once NBA 2K jumped to the PS5 and Series X, the graphical detail went up to another level. But the lighting in 2K14 is something I still don't feel like 2K has topped. In terms of presentation, I really love the scoreboard and broadcast graphics used in 2K14. It screams early 2010s in the best way. Before halftime, Doris Burke will interview a player, then it cuts to the halftime show, which simply shows highlights and stats with a voice behind it. It wasn't bad at all, but this was before 2K introduced Ernie, Shaq, and Kenny, who are still featured in 2K24. 2K24 might have the worst scoreboard I've ever seen, however. It looks like a ticker rather than a scoreboard. That said, 24 having multiple commentary teams, sideline reporters, each arena's unique PA voice, and of course the retro broadcast packages included in the My Eras mode make it the better game in terms of presentation to me. For a 10-year-old game, however, 2K14 is still really dang good in this department. I can't say 2K14 is a better game than 2K24. While I called 2K24 not good in my review, that's mainly because the game barely changed from 2K23, and microtransactions have gotten worse than ever. I would recommend most people who just want to play a modern game offline go for 2K23, while competitive players might as well get 24. The base game itself, especially the My Eras mode, is fantastic, although there are plenty of gameplay frustrations. NBA 2K14 isn't as deep or complex of a game on or off the court, but it has a certain charm missing from modern releases. The lighting and graphics are insane for a decade-old title, and it's a great way to go experience the NBA back in 2013 as authentically as possible. I think a lot of people are falling for nostalgia if they call this game better in every way than modern 2K, but it was a more fair, less monetized title with a lot of passion put into it. And it does play a lot differently, and I can see someone preferring the gameplay of 2K14 to 2K24's. This game is definitely a classic worth playing today, but are you better off playing this game than a newer 2K? I'm not so sure. If you're looking for a deep NBA experience, go play the My Eras mode in 2K23 or 2K24. But if you're looking for something new, something fresh, something a little nostalgic, 2K14 is a quality option that might even surprise you. Thanks for watching.